So you don't have to pay attention long to me. Just 5 minutes. Here goes. Matthew 15:21-28 this morning. When Jesus left there, he withdrew to the area of Tyre and Sidon. Just then, a Canaanite woman from that region came and kept crying out, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely tormented by a demon." Jesus did not say a word to her. His disciples approached him and urged him, "Send her away because she's crying out after us." He replied, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him and said, "Lord, help me." He answered, "It isn't right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." "Yes, Lord," she said, "yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table." Then Jesus replied, "Woman, your faith is great. Let it be done for you as you want." And from that moment, her daughter was healed. This morning, I want to look at this passage. Number one, there was a Canaanite woman, not an Israelite, a mortal enemy of Israel. She had an unsolvable problem. It was impossible. Her daughter was demon-possessed, and it says she suffered terribly. The second group of people in this was the disciples. They were annoyed with the problem. They wanted her to go away because it was getting in the road of what they were doing. They were annoyed with it. Jesus' declaration, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." The Canaanite woman's prayer, she said, "Lord, help me." She didn't have any place to go. Remember, it was an impossible problem. It was all consuming. It was impossible. It was taking the very breath of life out of her. Jesus had a very weird response. It says, "It's not right to take the children's bread and give it to the dogs." The Canaanite woman's faith response was this. It says, "Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table." She wasn't looking for a lot. She was just looking for some hope. Just even a crumb. And then great healing takes place in verse 28. It says, "Woman, your faith is great. Let it be done for you as you want." And from that moment, her daughter was healed. So here's the message. This morning is about a Mission Sunday. We have an unsolvable, seemingly impossible problem that's affecting our nation in ways that I never thought possible. The sad part to me is that we as Christians sometimes we find it annoying, we find it frustrating, we have no idea how to help. It just doesn't go away. You see, Roe v. Wade was just overturned, but I haven't seen anything that really changed because that was a great thing. But since that time, Lancaster has an abortion clinic. The abortion pill is just being given out like candy, and I don't use that lightly. So Jesus gave a declaration. I want to declare something over you. Be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. I declare that over you guys. Rosemary, the same, where you at? So Jesus' weird response, I don't know what to do with it. I couldn't understand what he was saying there. But you know, sometimes when you guys are out on the street, you don't have a clue what to say. But you guys are spirit-driven people, and God gives you the right response, even though you can't make sense of it in your mind at the time. God gives you that power. God's, then here's the faith response. This morning we're going to hear from two very faith-filled ladies as they have felt God's Spirit speak to them in the face of a huge problem. Great healing can take place when compassion is shown. I'm always amazed at Jesus' ministry. Yeah, he fed the 5,000, but they didn't all become Christians at that point. But when God had compassion and met a need, people started coming. And it wasn't just one or two, it was multitudes. That's why the 5,000 were there in the first place to be fed, because they were attracted to Jesus' compassion and taking care of the need. God can use our church to heal the scourge of our nation, to heal the broken hearts of women that face an impossible problem. It's pretty difficult to be pregnant and 17. You face rejection, you face hurt, and you can be like the disciples here were, well, that's annoying. If they would just live a moral life, this won't be an issue. You're right. You're right. But the truth of the matter is they're finding themselves in this situation with no hope, oftentimes rejected by family or having no family at all. Maybe it's to create relationship with the guys who just want to check out. What's God calling us to as a church? How can we provide for the needs of a seemingly impossible problem? I think God's calling our church to compassion. I don't care if this morning if you're here and you have big faith or you got no faith at all. I know that my God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. So I'm asking that for the scourge on our nation this morning. We're not gonna break in at a national level and solve this issue. But this morning we're going to hear about a house of refuge. Could it be that city on the hill? I don't know. Every worship song you sang this morning had something to do with what I'm saying. Whether you're fighting on your knees, yeah. Thank you. So I want to introduce the speakers this morning. Sarah Tarnowski, you may know her name as Sarah Bokey, but she just recently got married, as we sang. She's been married for a year. She has been tirelessly working with this project. I think it's been 3 years? 2, 3? Forgive me. Let me back up. She's been doing this for 6 years. She has a real passion for it. And we're going to hear a little bit how God's using her to give a little hope because of her compassion for the people. Rosemary's also been involved in sidewalk ministry, and she's going to be sharing her testimony. So Rosemary, I'm going to invite you to come up, and then you can come up as you see fit. And sound guys, you guys got mics for the two ladies?
Morning. Good morning.
No, thank you.
I just want to talk to you about something. I want you to know that if you find yourself pregnant today, I ask you to choose life for your baby. You are already a son, a father, and a mother. You are already a father and mother. Please choose life for your baby. there every Wednesday, but when at least once a month, and I'm usually there from 8:30 to like 11 o'clock in the morning. And just seeing women, couples coming in. Most of the time, that's their response. They might slow down and hear. Joey is one of the escorts, and just some others are volunteers. There's older ladies that volunteer on a weekly basis just to help these women. And I could understand their side. Their side is we have the they have the freedom to choose. They call it reproductive rights, but they don't realize that sure they have the choice to choose, but that baby is an individual created in the image of God. He's an image bearer of God and is fearfully and wonderfully being knit together in the mother's womb while they're trying to decide either to get rid of it or keep it. Now, not everyone who goes into Planned Parenthood goes there for the abortion pill, which essentially burns the baby and deprives the baby of oxygen. Oh, yes. Okay. So, yeah, there's two pills. So usually we know that they've taken the pill. They go in, they stay there for like 3 hours. And when they come out with a brown bag for the second pill to finish the job. And what drew me to Love Life, series of events, I feel like, for one, I know firsthand what it is to have a mother who has gone through the trauma of having a baby at a young age. My mom was 15. Many of you know my story, but just to recap, my mom was 15 when she had me. They told her to abort me. The Lord intervened through, whether it was an angel or a brave soul, intervened, and she changed her mind and kept me. She ended up becoming pregnant soon after my birth, and she did then abort that baby. And she's shared very, very little with me of the trauma, but I've seen it I've sensed the trauma she's experienced from that abortion. Who she believes would have been my only brother, Jonathan. Anyway, so I know the hardship, and I tell them, your baby might go through a lot of hard things in life. I know that's why you probably are having to make this decision, but I can tell you that it's worth it. It's worth keeping the baby, and she'll be a blessing to you. They'll be a blessing to you. And I'm glad my mother chose life for me. Sometimes I say that depending on how I'm led. And and just also we give them this Hope is Here card. In here is a brochure with a women's concern, which is really like literally a block away. They give them resources and other options for checking out their baby, having an ultrasound. And we also journey with them 1 year with the baby. We're not there just to like tell them to keep their baby and, well, good luck with that. But Love Life is willing to stand with them in their journey of pregnancy. We throw them baby showers and things like that. And then there's also, we offer the women counseling for post-abortive situations where they've already have had an abortion, but they've gone through the trauma of that, and we offer counseling services from that. Sarah will share more on that. There's two stories that stand out to me from the time. I started in August, I believe, and the two people that stand out to me is this last time I was there 2 weeks ago, Ramona. This is the second time I've had the opportunity to see a Spanish young lady come out. Most of the time, you could tell they're new to the country, and they only know Spanish, and they have no one besides their boyfriend. And so I was able to talk to a young lady you know, and she just told me that she has a very she was in pain and she needed to go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital after after a while she like texted me, we exchanged numbers, and then I went to the hospital with her and ended up um, meeting her again. Actually, I sent my mom to meet her the second time, just because she had reached out to me again later that week. So there's opportunities like that. There are some people that I have engaged with. There's another young person who has just stopped by, and he's like, I noticed you guys are protesters, but you're not angry, you're not loud. And he was just really curious to know what we're about. And I was able to share with him why we're there. And by the grace of God, ended up sharing the gospel with him. And now he's a friend of ours. We've invited him to our house. And I'm just excited for what the Lord is doing in his heart. He's so hungry for God. And so, I feel that, more than, yes, it's hard to receive all the curses, there's everything under the sun is there. And so you have to have tough skin, but, and I don't really have tough skin. It's just, you just gotta realize your battle is not against flesh. And that's what I feel when I'm there. It's just it's not them talking to me. It's the Spirit that's lashing out against truth. And so, I feel just very compassionate for them. I love the escorts and the volunteers. We pray for them on a weekly basis, and we desire that God will open their eyes. So if you have any questions, I would love to share further, but I don't want to take the time away from Sarah. Thank you all for the time.
Praise God. Isn't that awesome? Is this mic good? Okay. I'm so grateful to be here today. I just want to honor your pastors and your leaders, Pastor Galen and your other leadership, and Rosemary, for all the hard work and support they put into our ministry. We can't do what we do without the church saying yes to being a part of our mission. And so we are only here because you open the doors and because you support us in doing this. So just wanted to say that. We love you. We honor you. We're so grateful to be here today. Thank you to Arlen as well for blessing your wife and coming out basically every week, and all our other counselors who are out there with us. Rosemary had mentioned that we have escorts who are at the abortion clinics when we counsel. And so if you were to be there, when we're there on the sidewalk, you would see a couple coming in or a mom coming in and an escort immediately approaching them and encouraging them not to talk to us. They will often play music over what the counselor is saying, or they will talk over the counselor so that the message is drowned out. And one time, an escort, probably more than once, an escort, there's a particular one who is, you could say, particularly aggressive in her speech and really doesn't like us. And she'll often say things like, "I've never seen a woman talk to you. You aren't effective at all." And I always tell them, if we see one mom in 1 year turn around from this place, every minute we spend on this sidewalk is worth it. And it shuts them up pretty quickly because they realize we're not even really there for the numbers. We're there to be faithful. And Rosemary is faithful, and our counselors are faithful, and the ones that God has called to this ministry are faithful. And that's what our Love Life staff always remind us of, because it is a ministry that can get kind of tedious. It's not one you usually have a long list of people waiting to sign up for and waiting to join us for. But we know we're called to be faithful. And we want to be faithful to those escorts, to minister to them, to pray for them. And so if we just see one life saved, we believe it is worth it. And this morning I'm going to kind of harp on a particular aspect of our ministry called House of Refuge that I haven't really shared about here much before. The last 2 times I've spoke, you guys have done prayer walks with us. I think I was here last September. You guys did a prayer walk with us in York. And so I've often talked more about our prayer walks, what we call an adoption week. House of Refuge is another very vital part of our ministry that I'm going to share about briefly today. But before I do that, I also just wanted to share a few updates, a few testimonies, similar to what Rosemary did. And as I was saying before, even if you can leave that slide up if you want, I'll get to that little presentation in a moment. But as I was saying, even if we see one life saved, our time on the sidewalk is worth it. Last year, as far from what we know, we saw about 15 moms choose life for their children at our local abortion clinics. And yes, it is a lie that no woman talks to us, because they do. And most of these women were ones that we encountered on the sidewalk who were coming for an abortion either that day or coming back later that week for their appointment. And we had over 1,300 Christians mobilized in prayer, mainly in Lancaster last year. We also had prayer walks happening in York throughout the year, but mainly in Lancaster County. Last year was our first year doing prayer walks at that new Planned Parenthood. It opened in the fall of, that would have been 2022, and then they started doing abortions the beginning of last year. And so we had about 1,300 Christians mobilized in prayer, praise God. For the first year ever doing prayer walks in Lancaster, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good number. And our ministry is national. We're across the country, so we're only one location of about 22 locations around the state. So we're in Northern and Southern California, we're in South Florida, New York City, Detroit, Chicago, Florida, Texas, and some states in between. And since 2016, we've had over 180,000 Christians mobilized in prayer at abortion clinics across the country, and over 5,600 babies saved from abortion. And that's because the gospel was present at the abortion clinic, not because of the wisdom of man or the intellect of man or anything we could say or do, but because the gospel was present. We do believe our counseling should be motivated by the Great Commission and guided by the Great Commandment to love our neighbor and to love God, and to bring the gospel to the ends of the earth, to disciple the nations and disciple our cities. And abortion clinics are often overlooked mission fields, we believe, in our cities. And so we want to fill those spaces. And so we're so grateful. Since 2016, over 5,600 lives have been saved. I wanted to share an update on a story. I think I shared the beginning of this story last September, but we've had a mom we've been working with through one of our House of Refuge churches, and I'm going to explain in a moment. And she's a mom that actually chose life for her baby last year. And she has known an individual, woman in one of our House of Refuge churches for over about 10 years. She's known her since she was 10 years old. I believe the mom is 22 now. And she became pregnant with her third baby, and third baby from a different man than her other two. She has 3 children from 3 different fathers, and she's 22, and very, very rough background and upbringing. And we got her into a maternity home. We had taken her to a pregnancy center. She saw the life in her womb. She didn't abort her child. She ended up leaving the maternity home and continued to make decisions that were not good for her and not good for her baby and for her children. Her 2 children ended up being taken away from her. And because she was connected to a House of Refuge church, actually a couple in the House of Refuge church ended up fostering her 1-year-old daughter, and still have her 1-year-old daughter. And because of the decisions she continued to make over the last few months, the baby that she's having in a few weeks, actually, she's due in April, we cannot stay in her custody either. And so what is redemptive about this story is because she was plugged into a local body, the family that has her daughter will be fostering her baby as well. And this mom has now, the father of her baby has finally faced justice that he needed to face, and he was arrested, and this has actually placed her on a much better track, and she has been making much better decisions recently and has been plugged into a local church and a recovery program in that church, and is now open to having her baby given up for an open adoption to this family. And so I share that because it's a story of redemption of a church coming around a mom who made a series of decisions that, to be honest, I was convicted and so encouraged by the persistence the women in this church showed to this mother. Because it can be so easy after a while to be like, you are digging a ditch for yourself and for your family and nobody can help you. But they stuck with her and they prayed with her. They never ignored her. They always told her, when you come back, we are here for you. When you're ready to make these choices and take these steps, we are here for you. And now she is, and she's doing that. And her baby will most likely be adopted by this family in the church in a Christian home, be with her sister, and also be able to have a relationship with her mom. And so this is one of the few probably adoption stories that we have with the ministry, and one that I love to share because it's the story of a church coming around a mom, and that's really what we're all about. That's what the House of Refuge Network is all about. A lot of these women don't even necessarily need practical help. This individual did, but a lot of them don't. But what they all need is a church, and they all need discipleship. Because the one thing every woman seeking an abortion lacks is Jesus. And even if they're coming from a local church or they've raised in a church, which we see this so often, there's been some disconnect along the way that has landed them at an abortion clinic. And so they all need Christ, they all need salvation, they all need the grace of God, and they all need a church to come around them. And that's really the heart and vision of our ministry. Just a few weeks ago, we had a mom choose life at the York Planned Parenthood. Praise God. One of our new workers and counselors, this is also another little update. We have a young lady named Lydia who has been onboarded to oversee our church engagement in Harrisburg. That was a huge answer to prayer. I think I would tell my husband, God would have to drop someone out of the sky in my lap for me to be able to bring someone else on to help me more full-time or part-time, just because I didn't have anyone available. And she literally kind of fell from the sky. She ran up to one of our counselors one day on the sidewalk in Harrisburg. She lives 5 minutes down the road, and she said, I am pro-life, and I love what you're doing. How do I get involved? And that was like 2 years ago, and so finally we've been able to bring her on to help us in that area. She was counseling that morning and got to pray with and speak extensively with this mom who left that day and didn't abort her baby and decided to choose life. Amen. I apologize if I get more out of breath than usual. We are expecting a baby, so in just a few months, but bear with me here. So just wanted to share those two stories and updates. I also have a coloring book that I helped create, a pro-life coloring book that we are in the process now of getting printed. Hopefully within the next month we'll have them and we'll be able to give some to all of our local churches. It's a book that goes through the development of the baby from conception to birth in a way a child understands, along with scripture on each page and illustrations that bring the scriptures to life. And so that's an update because for a long time we just didn't have the funds to be able to get it printed, but by God's grace and fundraising we did last year and at the end of the year, we've been able to do that. So we're so grateful for that. We want to give this to moms in the neighborhood as well, moms that choose life, moms that we speak to, and to our local churches to use as a resource. Last thing I'll share before diving into this presentation, a prayer request I have. Yes, we always want to pray for our moms, pray for the fathers, the mothers, our counseling teams, etc. But I'd love it if you could join me in prayer for 10 more churches to get on board with us this year. That might not sound like a huge number, but in the natural, it's hard to get even like 5 more churches on board, just because it takes a lot of time and process and relationship building and trust building. A lot of churches have qualms about ministry like this for various reasons, but we would love to get 10 more churches and reach about 40 partnering churches in our region. Why we do that, we have 40 prayer walks throughout the year. If we can have 40 churches on board, we could basically have a church every week of the year from February to November engaging in prayer and mobilizing their congregation. So 10 more churches with us. We would so appreciate it if you could join us in prayer for that. So now for House of Refuge. As I mentioned earlier, you could go to the next slide. This is an aspect of our ministry that we are really emphasizing, not just nationally, but even internationally. We just had a church get on board with this network in Australia and in Nigeria, praise God. So a church in any location can actually join our House of Refuge network. It doesn't have to be in a Love Life city or in a Love Life prayer walk location like we have here. There are 3 purposes behind our houses of refuge that I want to highlight to you, and they are on the slide behind me. One of them is to prevent abortions from happening in your congregation. This sounds kind of wild to some people, but there was a recent study done by an organization called CareNet that showed 1 in 4 women seeking an abortion were attending a church at least once a month at the time of their abortion. We do see this regularly when we sidewalk counsel, whether a woman was raised in the church or regularly goes to one, or was taken by her grandmother or her mother when she was younger, or the father of her baby is involved in a local church. We want our churches to be places of refuge and places these families and women will run to instead of away from in their situation. We want to provide healing for those who are post-abortive in our churches. This is also very common in many congregations. For example, at our first prayer walk of the year this year in February, I had a 74-year-old woman come up to me and say, for the first time this week, I shared about my 2 past abortions with someone in my church. And her church is a house of refuge with us, and so they offer abortion recovery to their congregation. And I know this can kind of vary depending on the demographic and nature of your congregation, but in many churches there are women and men who have abortion in their past, and they've never talked about it with anybody. 74 years old, decades prior, she had had 2 abortions, and she was just in tears talking to me and sharing her story and saying, I want to get involved with you guys and want to get connected to abortion recovery. and we've been able to help her. So that's just an example of a woman who has kind of sat with it and dealt with it for many decades and has never talked about it before because it's often never brought up in the church. Often women don't know who to go to, what to say. And then protect the unborn in your community, and we'll share a little bit more what that's about as well. There's 2 simple steps that all of our House of Refuge churches go through to be onboarded as part of this network. And again, these are listed above. One of these steps is reading what we call a House of Refuge statement to the congregation at least twice a year. It can be read more than twice. We just ask for at least a twice-a-year commitment. And this statement is on our website. The language can be tailored according to the culture, context of the church, if the leadership feels like certain words should be changed. But the statement essentially addresses if you or someone you know is in an unplanned pregnancy and needs a place of refuge, we are here for you. This is what we believe, this is what we can do, this is what we will do, and this is what we won't do. And it just very clearly, in a gracious, love-filled, compassion-filled, but also truth-filled way, explains the value of the life of that unborn child. So if there's a woman in your congregation, or again, a family member, coworker, friend, whatever the case might be that this applies to, it directly explains the value of that unborn life, the value of that pregnancy, whether it's a result of sin or if you were sinned against, your baby is not a sin, and that life in your womb deserves to live and is an image bearer of God. And so we can help you, and it kind of goes through a few ways the church will walk with the mom, but it also says we can't refer you for an abortion, here's why, and it explains that. At the end of the statement, it mentions abortion recovery and how that's available to anyone who needs it. And then at the end of the statement, the pastor or person reading it from the pulpit will typically refer to someone we call the Love Life rep in the church. And that's the second step a House of Refuge goes through. You basically select at least one individual, sometimes it's a couple, a husband and a wife, who will be your Love Life rep and will be that point person for anyone in the church or, again, someone a congregant knows that needs help post-abortive or in an unplanned or crisis pregnancy. This doesn't have to be a mom who is necessarily abortion-minded. It could be a mom, it could be a single mother, could be a mom who doesn't really want an abortion, but she needs a community, needs that help, maybe needs a mentor to walk with her, etc. And so that rep will be that point person. That kind of takes the load off the pastor. The goal of House of Refuge is not to put more on the pastor's plate, it's really to equip the congregation. We want to build a pro-life infrastructure, pro-life culture within our churches where the church knows where and how to point the mom in the right direction and also knows how to come alongside her in the best way possible in her situation. So it's not just all right, here, pastor, here's another woman for you to walk with and counsel. It's to equip people in the church to do that and to walk alongside her. And so that rep is that initial point person. That rep basically goes through a training with us online. It's a 3-part training they do on their own time. And it takes a total of about, the first 2 parts are about 45 minutes, the last part's about an hour and a half, so it's not super long. But there are additional trainings I'll share in a moment that are also made available to the church. So you go through that one training. Your church, with your permission, is also then put on a map on our website that we call our House of Refuge map. And this map is on a QR code that we give to all moms that we hand out literature to. It's also on our website, and they can look up their city, their zip code, their area, and find all houses of refuge in their area and be put in contact with that church. So that's kind of a resource for women to turn to find a church in their community that's prepared and committed to helping them. There have been numerous times our staff have called churches in other cities where we don't have houses of refuge, explained the situation, and the church has said, we don't have a ministry for that, but here's maybe the pregnancy center or something like that, which is great. The pregnancy centers are awesome resources we always direct women to, but we need churches to walk alongside them, and we want to be able to plug the woman into a church, not just a pregnancy center, but also a community for discipleship, etc. So those are the first 2 simple steps HRCs go through. I'm going to say HRC because House of Refuge sometimes is like a mouthful. So HRC stands for House of Refuge Church. Those are the 2 steps we go through, having that trained rep, committing to reading that statement at least twice a year. And you can go to the next slide. In our House of Refuge HRCs as well, we encourage additional trainings within the church or within the community of the congregation. And just a few of these I'm going to go through. The first 3, I believe, that are up there, yes, the first 3 are through Love Life, meaning these are connections through our ministry that we encourage congregants in our houses of refuge to get plugged into. One of these is mentorship. This is big. We actually basically require all our HRCs to have at least one trained mentor in the congregation. So that's a woman in your church who has gone through our mentorship training. Again, that's online, something you do on your own time. And then we have, I believe, monthly mentor meetings for questions and answers and explanations, encouragement, stuff like that you're welcome to join. And that mentor has committed to walking with a mom through her pregnancy. So this really helps streamline the process. If a woman were connected to your church or connected to your rep, so to speak, that rep would be able to pass that mom on to that trained mentor and still keep her in your church instead of having connect her to a mentor that's somewhere else or maybe not as close by or in another church. And so our mentor training is great. It's very important. We, again, encourage our HRCs to have at least one of those in the congregation. Another training we have, I believe it says sidewalk outreach. Yeah, sidewalk outreach training. Rosemary has gone through this. All our team members have gone through this. This is one of the main ways, again, that we meet women that are abortion vulnerable and moms that choose life is at the abortion clinics. So we always encourage people in our HRCs, in our partnering churches, to go through our sidewalk outreach training. Not everyone has the capacity to be there every week. We usually ask for a once-a-month commitment. So if there's someone who has one morning a month, a Wednesday, a Tuesday, a Friday, where you'd want to come out for about 3 hours in the morning and join our sidewalk counseling team, of course, we highly encourage that. We're always looking for new counselors, for more counselors that have a passion and a burden to do this. Probably the most uncomfortable one, pushes you more out of your comfort zone, but I've seen some of the most quiet people become most alive and most bold on the sidewalk, and so don't count yourself out. I encourage you to pray about it. That's another training we have online you go through on your own time. I'm going to touch on Restored Life. Restored Life is our abortion recovery connection. And this is essentially, Restored Life isn't an abortion recovery study, but it's a ministry that connects men and women to abortion recoveries already happening in their cities, whether that's online or in person, or in a local church. And so this is kind of twofold. A lot of our HRCs will have Restored Life groups happening in the church, meaning there's a woman who has gone through the Restored Life Abortion Recovery Leader Training, and she has started an abortion recovery group in the congregation. And that could be for women in the church and women outside. Doesn't have to just be for congregants, but sometimes some of our churches will form an abortion recovery group in the church, kind of like a Bible study. It's all Bible-based. We use Bible-based studies, curriculums that have already been made. One popular one is called Surrendering the Secret that I believe our ministry uses. And so Restored Life will connect women to that in a church, or will connect them to one that's already operating in a pregnancy center. Again, that could be online, in person. We try to match them with one that works for their schedule best, etc. So Restored Life, we have training for you to either lead an abortion recovery group yourself, or to, if abortion is part of your past, to go through an abortion recovery program yourself. So does that make sense? If you have any questions, you can ask me after. But that's the Restored Life training. Our abortion recovery leader training is also done online. And we have a director, Stephanie, over the Restored Life ministry who leads that and does that training. The last three I have here are actually outside sources. So these aren't Love Life trainings, but these are ones that we have connections to. One is Making Life Disciples. This is, again, through that ministry called CareNet. This is, I would say, a more thorough, it's about a 12-week study program that you can do with a group in your church. So if you had like a group of women that wanted to get more equipped with how to walk with a mom through an unplanned pregnancy, how to come alongside a family in that situation, Making Life Disciples is a great 12-week study to go through weekly. There's like study books and handbooks that you go through with it. It's discipleship-based, gospel-based, etc. And we have free access to that for all our HRC churches. So that's another resource anyone could plug into, anyone who wants to join that group in your church. It's also on Right Now Media. If you're familiar with Right Now Media, we would also give you an account to that. The next one is Embrace Grace, right? Yeah, Embrace Grace is a Bible study to build in a local church for single moms. A few of our HRCs have these going where they invite single moms from the community to come to a weekly Bible study, and I believe it's like 8 to 12 weeks long. And then at the end, you have a big baby shower for all the moms who are involved in the Bible study. That's Embrace Grace. Again, that's an outside program, outside curriculum, outside of Love Life that you can bring into your church and build that Bible study for single moms. The last training is actually also through Love Life, and it's just our new HRC rep training. This is a new training that we just released a few weeks ago. So all of our representatives in a House of Refuge now goes through this new training. And that's, again, 3 parts like I mentioned before. So those are just some more training and resources that the church can use to encourage and build and foster that pro-life community, and encourage and equip your church to help a mom in the situation. I say the more resources, the better. You might not be using them all at once, or you might not be using them every week or every month, but you kind of have them in your tool belt, so to speak, which is what a lot of our trainings are for. You can go to the last slide. I'll just end with sharing a few other creative ideas and small ways that your church can take part. If none of the previous ones apply to you, or you can't do any of them, we have very simple things you can do, like joining a monthly prayer walk with us. This is huge, especially on weeks when we don't have a whole church coming out to pray. Having regular prayer walkers or House of Refuge churches that bring out groups regularly or monthly to our prayer walks is a huge blessing. It's a great way to stay connected to what's happening beyond the 4 walls in the culture of the city with other churches alongside you. So we encourage people commit to a monthly prayer walk, maybe twice a month. We're usually in Lancaster about twice a month, in New York twice a month. You can also pray for our counselors on a weekly basis in your bulletin or announcements. And you can also pray for our prayer walks regularly on a monthly basis. So prayer reminders in a bulletin, prayer reminders for our sidewalk counselors in Lancaster every Wednesday, in York every Tuesday and Friday. And then collecting clothes and baby items is another simple way to really help us and help these moms. Sometimes we have women who need items immediately, and they can't really go through a process of a program like a pregnancy center, for example. You often have to go to multiple classes before you can get items, and then you have to be able to drive there, you have to have an ID, you kind of have to have these steps to go through to even get one thing like diapers that you might need. And so oftentimes having these on hand in a storage unit or something like that to be able to go to quickly to resource for a mom and for a family is a huge help. Even bigger things like strollers, car seats, and stuff like that. Having these items is a huge help. Having moms that we know that have them that want to donate them to us is a huge help, and we can always get them into the hands of a mom that needs them. So collecting items is simple, it's easy, and it's really, really resourceful and useful for us. So those are just some creative ideas, some smaller projects and things. If you can't commit to one of our trainings, ways that you can be involved in the House of Refuge culture, you could say, within your church. Now, some people get confused with House of Refuge. Is this a church with our ministry? Is this a church with Love Life? Is this a ministry through our church? It's through Love Life, but we're really just giving you the model, the trainings, the infrastructure to implement into your congregation. And some churches take it really far. They do all the trainings. They get really equipped. They have a whole life team, you could say, in the congregation. Sometimes some of our HRCs just have that one rep or that one couple that we turn to. That rep, too, I will say, is usually the main person I would go to, for example, if we have a baby registry that we're sharing with our churches to get a mom the items she needs. I would send that registry to the rep, who then can share it with the congregation. I would go to the rep if we need a mentor, and there's a mentor in the church that's available. If we're looking for housing or a program in the area of that church, I would go to the rep, and they would help me work through the resources that are in their area. That's one thing the rep keeps on hand, are the local resources. So I think those are the main things I wanted to go over for House of Refuge. We have about 20 houses of refuge now in our area, which is awesome. A few of those are closer to Allentown. We have I believe we have 3 in the Allentown area, and then most of the others are in York County and Lancaster County. So yeah, very grateful for them. Again, I want to encourage you, if this is something that your church is passionate about and you can build within your church, we primarily know it's obedience to God, because it's stepping out in faithfulness to what he's called us to be and do, which is to be the hands and feet of Christ to those who are in need. And if anyone is in need, we know it's the unborn in our country. We know it's moms who are seeking abortions and contemplating that decision. To spare them from that is the best thing we can do for their future, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, etc. So hope this was encouraging for you. I thank you again for your time. I hope I didn't go too long, but thank you guys so much for listening and being a part. And if you again have any questions, if you'd like to sign up for any of the Love Life trainings we provide or need next steps on any of the other trainings I mentioned, please feel free to talk to me. I'll jot down your info and get you signed up, or give it to Rosemary as well, your email, name, and phone number, and we'll get you that training sent to you. So thank you so much. God bless.